I'm Laura Haywood. Just up the street from here at the Public Theater, a new musical has theater and music worlds united in acclaim. Featuring the music of Bob Dylan, beautifully transformed, The Girl from the North Country is a story of a down-on-its-luck American community on the brink of change in 1934. It is haunting, poignant, and completely gorgeous. Here to talk about the show, please welcome Sydney James Harcourt, Kimber Sprawl, and Jeannette Bayardelle. Congratulations on this gorgeous production. It is like nothing I've ever seen, and I mean that in the best possible way.
Thank you. It's like nothing I've ever done. I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
Completely singular. You just couldn't expect what we were getting ourselves into.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I actually have come to expect from the public. Known for shows like A Chorus Line and Hamilton and Hair, it is known for reinventing what theater and musical theater in particular can be. It must be really exciting and invigorating to be part of something that feels kind of ancient and also really modern and new at the same time.
It's such a blessing. I remember us doing the reading for the first time, and we had like 2 days to learn like all the music and just go through the material. And at the end of that reading, we were all just like, wow, what just happened? This is special. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this is, but it's something amazing and it's beautiful. And I'm so happy that I am in the room where it happened.
As it were. Can one of you give us a spoiler-free synopsis of the show's plot?
You should do that one.
Well, it's funny. People asked me this, and I get asked this a lot, and I would just say it's hard to explain. You have to come see it. Mm-hmm. It takes place in a boarding house in 1934, Depression, post-Depression, but mid-comeback, Duluth, Minnesota. And it follows the lives of a cast of characters, the owners of the boarding house, a wife who is suffering from early onset dementia, an alcoholic son, a local shoe mender, a doctor, and then the various people who are staying at the boarding house, either for a long time or just coming in the middle of the night. And what happens over the next 2 days and how everybody's stories eventually spill out onto the stage is the only spoiler-free way I can put it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I think people, you always want some type of definitive answer or a reason for something, but I love this play because you kind of get to watch people maneuver through life, and they're dealing with the Great Depression, but they're also just dealing with everyday things, and very rarely do we get to sit and relish in something and get these answers. So I think it's really nice to just see what happens when people are put in situations and they just have to survive. Mm-hmm. And that's what you see, people just surviving and living and trying to make the best of their situation among each other.
The beautiful thing is that it's very diverse. And it's great watching just a group of people who are clearly struggling. It's the depression, but they're all hanging on to some type of hope. They're running away from something, but there's just some type of hope that they have in the house, that they're trying to achieve something or run away from something. And just watching people try to do life and be successful at it. And it's really special. And then, of course, you add the Bob Dylan music. It's out of this world.
It's funny because I've listened to Bob Dylan quite a bit, but I've seen him perform live. I don't know that I would have immediately recognized this music as Bob Dylan's because it has been reinvented and orchestrated and arranged in a way that, I think maybe technically it could be called a jukebox musical because the music existed, but it just doesn't feel like that.
Yeah,
it's not a jukebox musical in the sense where people think about jukebox
it's unconventional.
Yeah, this is not Mamma Mia.
None of the lyrics generally reflect what the stream of consciousness of that character is at any given moment. Mm-hmm. It's more of a tone, it's more of a, this is what is happening inside of me, not this is the next element of the plot.
Yeah. Well, I think that a jukebox always has somebody's greatest hits on it, right? And this is not a Bob Dylan greatest hits musical in any way. There are a few songs that, that'll come on and you'll be like, wait, why does this sound familiar? Oh, right, because this was a huge hit for Bob Dylan. But that's the vast minority of these songs. I really have to give it to the creative team for choosing so deep from his catalog and making it feel like it's almost like it's a play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's this score that feels like it was built for the story as
I
opposed to the other
think
way
a
around.
lot of times, like you said, in jukebox musicals, you want to get the hits in, so the story kind of caters around that. But we have such a rich and complex play and story that we want to get across to people, that in this case, it's vice versa. The music is complementing the play. So that's why you get songs from Bob Dylan that you've never heard before, because what we're looking for, and you'll see, Bob Dylan is a lyrical genius.
Yeah.
Like, he just won the Nobel Peace Prize.
The only
but
musician to ever win the prize for the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think what Conor did a really good job was finding the lyrics and the stories behind Bob Dylan and using those to complement the play, as opposed to just shelling out different music, which is amazing. We love jukebox musicals, but this is about the story.
Yeah. It's. I get emotional because I'm, first of all, just so happy to be a part of this. But what we do every night, and just watching these two on stage and the rest of the cast,
Which is a
in their
huge
parts,
cast, by the way.
a huge cast, and the singing, what the work that's happening on stage. Sometimes I joke and I'm like, how can I be in the show and be a fan of the show? Like, I'm supposed to do my part. I can't watch them while I'm supposed to do my part, but it's just that special.
Well, because it's such an ensemble show, so you do get to sit back and watch your castmates, come forward and shine, and you're still on stage supporting them. Like, everyone kind of has their moments, but even the leading characters, like, we're still in the back, we sing the backups, we play the instruments.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely ensemble-driven show.
It's hard to describe, and in a situation like this, I want to get people to picture it in their heads.
You can't. You just got to come.
I know. Well, and then we get into the fact that this show has been so celebrated and so well received that
Yes.
the whole run is sold out.
Yes.
There are a few opportunities to get tickets, though. Do you guys want to share about
Well,
that
if
stuff?
you are able to show up to the theater by 7 o'clock, they have
AM.
cancellation. PM.
Oh, PM.
No,
PM.
PM.
Oh,
PM.
And that's for an 8 o'clock show.
That's
like,
for a
really? Oh my
7:30
God.
show.
Okay, so half an hour before curtain.
Yeah, or earlier. They have a cancellation line, so probably a little earlier. And then they also have some seats that get released if people don't pick up their tickets or if they're not used for the handicap aisles. So there are some chances, if you're there, to get some. So
Well,
you wanna
we've
see it.
been extended a third time, so we go until December 23rd. So I do believe that you can get tickets
No, they
in
as of
December.
yesterday, they
as
are
of
all
yesterday.
sold out.
Oh, news to me. Well, guys,
Sorry.
You know what? I have a feeling, I don't want to jinx anything, but I will say that if there was ever a show that deserved to have a transfer so everyone would have an opportunity to see it, this is that show. I mean, we want our art to be transcendent, and this show is certainly that.
And it's also, it's distinctly American.
Absolutely.
Everyone can see themselves in this show watching it because it's still a struggle. We're dealing with issues that are still happening today.
Yeah.
Wrongful imprisonment and not being able to make a living wage, but you're working your butt off all the time. We are still dealing with this in this country. You can see yourself up on that stage, and to have, they did it in London and they were celebrated there, but to have an American cast take this on, it just fits on us like, a comfortable shoe. So it's part of the reason why I love the show so much.
And I would say, even though the show deals with issues around the Depression, it's yummy and it's fuzzy and it's like,
Funny.
watching a painting, sitting by a fireplace and sipping tea. The lighting is beautiful and the story is beautiful and the music is beautiful. So you're gonna have a good time, even though you're dealing with some issues that are painful to deal with at times, but it's a good time.
Yeah.
I think there are more laugh out loud moments than there are crying moments in the show.
Absolutely.
I mean, Mayor Winningham.
very witty.
You know what it reminds me of is family.
Oh, yes.
I think that like you go home to see your family for the holidays or for another occasion, and it's going to get complicated. But at the base of that is the warmth, the love, and there's a push and pull, a tension, and certainly in theater, tension is what drives the action. Hopefully, people leave after having an emotional, tense experience with their family even more like entrenched in the idea of how much they love them.
You know, it's interesting that a lot of people come to the show, and when they leave, they're going to the box office to get tickets to see it again because they feel like they have to revisit the moments and hear the songs again and just figure things out. They're like, I need a second chance at this.
I would agree. There's no way to take in the show in its totality with one viewing.
Yeah.
You are able to see it and enjoy it, but then to see it again, you will see so many things now that you understand what's going on.
Exactly.
That are little pieces of the puzzle of how to understand. Because unlike most jukebox musicals and musicals in general, it doesn't serve things to you on a platter. It makes you ask questions
Yeah.
of yourself, and it doesn't answer everything. It doesn't give everything. Some things are open-ended, and you ask Conor, our director and playwright, like, so what happens? And he'll go,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
there are moments when like I expect in a show usually for every loose end to be tied up.
Right.
For every like the Chekhov rule of theater that
You've gotta
says
check that
you
at
know
the
if you
door.
see a gun on the stage, it means the gun's gonna go off, and that's representative of anything that they hint at. You know that's gonna come back around. Normally in a show, if those loose ends weren't tied up, it would kind of drive me crazy. But there's something so relatable about this show and the way that people drift in and out of this boarding house where you don't know what their past entirely was and you don't know what their future entirely was.
And isn't that life?
Yes,
You know?
yes, and it
What it
feels
is.
so
you don't get all the
true
answers. You don't get them.
that I kind of felt myself going, how come more shows don't do this? How come there aren't loose ends that are left untied in more of the art that I love? And it got me questioning again what theater can be and how it can tap into what true humanity is.
And that's the beautiful thing about this show is I feel like it's setting a new standard in theater. So people are coming. When you go to theater, like you're used to most theater that you see, you figure you know how it's gonna begin, how it's gonna end. There has to be a closing, there has to be a want song. But I feel like with this, you come in and you're like, okay, wait a minute. What is this? What is happening? Because there's like a shift that's happening. Like there's like a paradigm shift. You have to retrain yourself because it's not your typical theater.
If there is anything close to an 11 o'clock number, it is when Sydney sings a hurricane, which is my favorite Bob Dylan song. And as soon as I saw that you were going to be singing it, I was like, yes. Can you talk about taking on that number?
Getting the opportunity to take on Hurricane and Slow Train both, two songs that are, all of his songs are brilliant, but two songs to me that are so lyrically, spiritually, the topic matter so deep, so important and driven. I knew that I couldn't leave anything behind. I had to put it all out there on stage. And getting to do Hurricane, I have been afraid of some numbers. I would go out for Room Where It Happens and just be a little terrified. You're like, there's so many moving parts. This number, I can't wait for it to start. I can't wait to dance with you. I can't wait till we bump into each other. I hope I'm not giving too much away.
You can no. You're just
can't-
encouraging
It
people to
is.
see
It feels like a hurricane. I get lost in it, and when it's done, I come back to myself, and it's a privilege. It's really a privilege. That's how I feel.
There's so much in that number that we don't get to see because we're in the number, but I feel like every night I turn and I look at Sydney and I'm like, wow, he does that?
And there's always something new. I feel like he
it's-
always just finesses it in the best
it's out
way.
of this world.
Every day, I mean, like some things are set, and some things I always leave just whatever is happening right there in the moment, that's what you're gonna do. Because it makes it more exciting for the audience. If I don't know what I'm about to do, they can feel it, and then I do it, and then I move on.
And I feel like Conor encouraged that too, even with our scenes.
Absolutely.
A lot of it, is pretty much set, but we kind of just roam around the world and around the house as if it's ours. And it's really nice because we just never know, how someone's going to react, and then you react a different way. Like we're literally just living in the space and creating this world in Duluth, Minnesota.
And always finding new moments
Yeah.
with each other, like our Thanksgiving turkey moment.
That was new,
I love it.
Yeah.
What can you tell
No,
us?
like,
We can't. No, you can't even bring that up.
You just know there's a moment.
There is a
It's
moment.
one of those ones that you might see when you see it the third time.
Well, when you do have a cast where the vast majority of the cast is on the stage, whether or not they're in the scene, it becomes the kind of thing. How big is your cast? Do you know the number off the top of your head?
16, yeah.
So I feel like I need to see this show 18 times,
18
right?
times.
Because I want to go.
Everyone has their own
I want to
story.
go once to get the whole picture. And then I want to go once for each member of the cast and never take my eyes off that person.
Yeah.
And then go once more to see the whole picture once I've gotten to know each character. So I'm going to be in that returns line quite a bit.
Okay, good.
Just
good.
like paint a little circle in front of the theater that belongs to me so I can keep coming.
I think, too, we should talk about our director.
Yes.
He is
Writer-director, right?
writer and director. Conor is a blessing. He's a genius, and he's wonderful to work with. And humble, and he's made it safe for us at the theater. And you know, when you have a director like that, you can't help but just love on each other because he loves on us so much, and he's just so
Hilarious.
he means a lot to us.
And I think the biggest thing for me is on the first day of rehearsal, or for me it was the third day of rehearsal because I joined the cast late, but he really encouraged us to make the characters in the world our own. They did the show in the West End, and it was a very special production, but he was very adamant about us bringing ourselves to the work, our own experience, and even something as even when the line didn't make sense for us, or we didn't, Conor, I don't like the way I say that, scratch it, let's change it, let's put it on you. So this show is really uniquely ours, and it's only because he made the space so safe and you know, and so warm. And I feel like our scenes from when we rehearse them in the rehearsal room are completely different from what we're doing today, and it's only because he's like, there is 20 million ways to do this show. There's 20 million ways to read these lines, so you just want to make sure you're reading them and saying them the way you want. He's just a huge encourager of our artistry.
And not to forget, he not only wrote it, and he's up there directing it, he has his
Arranges
guitar
the music,
on him during
at all
rehearsals.
times.
Really?
Yeah.
Or right behind him, because he went through the catalog, he listened to every single Dylan song in the catalog, and then chose
gotta
those
be like
22
500
songs.
Yes.
And then he kind of came up with arrangements. So I've been observing
Simon,
one of her scenes when she's gonna sing Tight Connection, and we get to that moment, and we don't have any musicians in the room because they were just working on scenes, and you hear the opening chords start because he's playing it on guitar. And so you're gonna sing this song now in front of the director, in front of the playwright, who is playing the guitar. And it really, it's a kind of moment that
He's
you
magic.
like, this is what I live for in art. This is why I do theater, because of amazing things like that.
Thank goodness we have the public.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I also have to point out Simon Hale,
Yes.
He
who
did the
arranged all these songs,
arrangements.
who did Spring Awakening, who arranged for Duncan Sheik, for Jamiroquai. He's up there using our voices like a string chorus.
And honestly, I wasn't a Bob Dylan fan. I didn't know the music well at all. You know, it was big in the 60s, so it was way before my time. And I listened to Bob Dylan, and I was
Me
like,
too.
yeah, way before all of our times on this stage. And I listened to Bob Dylan, and I was like, okay, like this is okay. And then I went and listened to all of Simon's arrangements, and for the first time, I really heard what Bob Dylan was saying. I really heard the lyrics, and he just compliments Bob's music so well. Like, Simon's amazing as well.
I think he's gonna bring this to a new audience.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I associate Conor McPherson as just sort of so much with Irish culture, and like I've seen the Seafarer and the Weir, and not to mention the fact that he has the world's most Irish name, Conor McPherson. But like, this might be the most American piece of theater I've ever seen. And like, I thought August Wilson was the quintessential American playwright, you know? But this could have been written by August Wilson.
It's stunning in that way.
And
I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, but he would always check in with us too. You know,
It's an American thing.
Yeah, and we'd be like, well, not
say
so
it like
much,
that?
you know, and we would, you know, let him know because
Were
he
there any
wanted it
Americans-
to be as authentic as possible.
Do you know if there are any Americans involved in the UK production?
There were not.
No.
No.
It sort of feels like, how could you do a show like this without having people in the room who...
Well, I mean, and to think what that was like. They
I
did
wonder.
it,
Them, yeah.
You know, they were able to like channel Americanness enough so to make it a big enough commodity that it could come across.
That is here.
Right.
So,
Well, thank goodness he let you invent, that he trusted your American voices to reinterpret it.
he
however,
totally
I'm
really
sure it
did.
was amazing over there. I don't.
Yeah, no, it was
you know,
a beautiful
but,
production.
But wow,
And we also-
I understood my history, my Americanness differently after seeing this show. Go ahead.
Oscar at the Public.
Oscar
we
Eustis.
just
Oh.
love him and
Yeah.
the works that he's bringing. It's just amazing. I'm just happy, so happy to just be a part of this.
Oscar said on the opening night celebration that he sees archetypes up there. He sees American gods. And it's just a great way to play it and a great way to say it, because we really are playing real people that lived in that time, that live today, these archetypes of people who are trying to make a life happen under these circumstances. So,
And I really love that, we have 3 people of color up here, and we get to tell 3 different African American stories. And that's not always the case. We each have 3 different accents from 3 different places in America, because we're Americans too. And I feel like a lot of times, as an African American actress, I feel like I'm always playing one stereotype. And this show, you don't see that at all. You see Black people being Americans and just being people. And we don't really get that opportunity a lot.
no, I'm generally playing Latino.
Really?
I get a lot of that, yeah. But in this one, I get to be a little Southern and just, slow it all down and be that guy.
Yeah, I wish we could have dug deeper into your actual characters, but I feel like that would have been a little too spoilery.
Yeah.
Yes, you got to come see the show.
Absolutely. So get in line for those return tickets and go to the Public Theater's website and find out about other options for when more tickets might be released. I'm crossing my fingers for a transfer. Has the show been recorded in terms of the music? Is there going to be music from Girl from the North Country?
I want that CD.
Oh my gosh,
So
I
I
want
would
to
we would love that CD.
But you have not yet recorded it?
We
Oh,
haven't
I
got-
recorded it on my iPhone.
Oh, don't tell people that. No bootlegging. No,
we haven't
rehearsal.
got
break
any
it from the
word.
record.
I think we're just really happy to be in the moment that we're in now. And we're very thankful that the public wanted to put a show like this on. And we're just going to relish in the show and try to have a really good run this winter and enjoy that. Broadway would be nice, but I mean, this is such a blessing just to be able to tell this story to the public audience, which is a completely different audience that we have, on 42nd Street and Broadway. So
Yeah, if Hamilton is any, story to follow, I would never have known what was going to happen the week after we opened downtown here. So I'm just taking it day by day and, letting us enjoy this ride. I mean, this is wonderful. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
we're just open.
I know. One way or another, the world's got to hear this music. So
Absolutely.
whatever I need to do to help at least get that music recorded,
I
you
agree.
call on me.
Okay.
Let's take a couple of questions from our audience.
Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned that this is an ensemble-driven piece, and I was just wondering what kind of things you did as a group to build that sense of unity and still remain creative and vulnerable with each other.
I can definitely answer that. I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about Conor. We do these warm-ups every morning, and we would get in this big circle. And the beautiful thing about it is that Conor would always join us. So it wasn't just the cast. It was like cast, creatives. I think Simon would join in too.
Lucy did, yeah.
Lucy, our choreographer. So we started that bond early on, which was really good, and we felt comfortable enough to create, and it was always a safe space. So there was never like, oh, if I try this, like we had to work on accents, and you know what? We went full in, even though sometimes they laughed at me.
We did, but it was a love laugh.
But I loved it, and we were just a family. So, but those circles really helped, and having a creative team involve themselves with us, and we just felt like one unit, and we still feel like that.
And we had a yes team. I feel like everyone was just so willing and able and open to create the world that is our Duluth, and no one ever made fun of each other and negated each other. We just have very open hearts, and people were just so excited to make our world real. And I think when you just have people that are open and willing and ready, it's a seamless transition. We didn't have to like work at being friends or good acting partners. We were just open people, and it happened.
And we eat together, and we go have drinks together, and we go on dates out in places together and have fun. It's just
live.
It's something I think that's important to do when you are in any piece, but especially if it's an ensemble-driven piece. You want to fall in love with your cast, so you do the things that help that to happen. And that's like, hey, do you want to go to lunch with me today?
You invest.
Kimber came right up to me and she goes, hey, I want to go to lunch. You want to go to lunch? And it was so refreshing to have somebody come up and be so open one day. And I was like, yeah. And, I went shopping and bought my opening night outfit with Colton, at a random store we walked into. They're having a sale.
Colton plays Jean.
Colton plays Jean.
The alcoholic son you mentioned in the intro. The cast. I mean, it's like Caitlin Houlihan, who was recently in Waitress, and Colton, who was in Dear Evan Hansen. And I mean, the whole ensemble is oh, that's the person from this is the person from that, and
but no egos. Especially the veterans in our show,
Mayor.
You would never know all the amazing things this woman has done, but she comes to work like everyone else. Her heart is open like everyone else. No one is in there with any type of ego, which I also think makes for a great ensemble.
And we have to give credit to casting. Casting did a really good job.
Yeah, they came.
Casting changed my life.
Casting changed my life. Me too.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
Have we mentioned that you should see this show?
Yeah.
Who else has a question?
Hi. I was wondering, what are the emotional leftovers of acting in like such a dramatic and human musical?
After the show, or
Yeah, like after the show, how do you feel after engaging in such like a big
Honestly,
performance?
it's exhausting. I mean, physically, emotionally, intellectually, like we kind of go through a lot. I remember sitting down next to Jeannette and I was like, this show's so sad. And now you can't help but to feel it. But also it's so funny. For me, I like to leave the work on the stage in Duluth. So I'd always take a breath, before we start to breathe in our world. And then I always take a breath to release it.
I have to be careful not to listen to the very end of the show, or else I'll become too emotional out there. But what I do love to do is look out into the audience and see how they are so touched, they are so affected every night, and that gives me so much joy. That I always walk off with this pervasive sense of just euphoria and joy that we've told this story to yet another group of people. I want everyone to hear it. And then, of course, there's the joy of watching my castmates slay nightly. Both of you, oh, God, Todd Allman. I can't, that's a spoiler.
We'll just
Everything's a spoiler.
leave it there. I know this show. You said, I think, as much as we can say about the plot in that intro. So again, go see it. We'll do another interview in a while when everyone who wants to has seen it, and we could talk about all the details. We've got time for 2 more questions.
First of all, congratulations on such an outstanding performance.
Thank you.
I saw it once, I'm still processing, so I think I agree, you have to see it many, many times. I have a question. What kind of message do you expect people to live with after watching the play?
I would say, honestly, hope. And I say hope because you see people going through and you see people trying to process and you see people trying to figure it out. And we're all trying to figure it out. So I would say hope.
I would say resilience and perseverance. I mean, human beings, we are constantly evolving and we are just surviving, even around times right now. We know that there's going to be a tomorrow, and so hope is a big thing. But I guess hope stems from it's an active verb to me. So in this show, you see people actually putting in the work to get towards hope, but that's perseverance, that's tenacity.
And I would say, agreeing with both of those, I would say kindness. You know, we are all Americans here, or trying to, you know, become Americans. And we have to help each other. And that's part of this show, is that characters take chances and reach out to help when they don't necessarily have to. And that kind of love is what creates the opportunities for that hope to come true. So I would say that sense of your fellow man, no matter where they come from, no matter what they've been through, and no matter what they look like, could be your brother or sister or lover. So
I will say, as an audience member, the first thing I did after walking out of that theater was call some people and tell them I loved them.
Forgiveness as well. Because with all that goes on, you know, there's a level of forgiveness that you have to have, and it's open forgiveness, where, well, I don't want to tell the story, but forgiveness.
We've got time for one more.
Hello. I am a musician and an actress, and it's awesome to see that the cast is full of all ethnicities. How does it feel being African American or Black in America at this time, singing such an iconic person that wouldn't necessarily be associated with the Black culture? How does that feel, being able to go up on stage and sing his music and make it relatable for everyone?
it feels righteous. You know, Dylan, in some ways, was associated in writing Hurricane to bring that story forward of what happened to this man who was unjustly imprisoned. And a lot of people don't know it because, you know, I grew up in Detroit, and they didn't play Dylan on the radio like they played Whitney and Stevie. So I not only didn't have a plug into him, in hearing a song, I'm like, what is this? And like, you know, turned it off. But getting now to sing it as a Black man in America, and we're still dealing with the same issues. It's still happening, and maybe worse. It feels like if I can be a conduit for change through art, then I have served the pinnacle of my purpose.
And I feel like Dylan, like, we don't know the full story of who Bob Dylan is, and he has a lot of stories, and he was associated with a lot of people, Black people, he was a born-again Christian for a while, and some of the songs that we sing now stem from some of those albums that came out from when he was singing gospel music, or he made a gospel album. So I feel like there's a lot about Dylan that a lot of people don't know. But in this show, I feel like we tap into a lot of who people don't know about him.
I guess it just also goes to show how connected we are and how the same we are. You know, I feel empowered to sing Tight Connection. A Black woman might as well have written it, because it's just, I feel like it just tells the story so well. But music is universal, and it can be interpreted in so many different ways. So I feel like it's just a big lesson for me. Like he was saying, I did not grow up, you know, with Bob Dylan in my Black house, but I might as well had, because when I listened to that music, it connected so well and rang so true. So it just goes to show that we're one.
And a lot of the songs, like, you hear the soul in it. It's soulful.
Yeah,
it's
Bob
folk,
Dylan's got the soul.
He, you know.
He does.
What would you say to Bob Dylan if you found out he was in the audience and you had the opportunity to say something to him after the show?
I think I would say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution.
First word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to you three. Sydney, Kimber, and Jeannette, it's been such an honor to have you here. I can't wait till the whole world gets to see this show. Sydney, you said something about pinnacle of purpose. And when I think about the purpose of art, I think pinnacle is the right word for the girl from the North Country. Playing now at the Public Theater on Lafayette Street in New York City. Everyone go see it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.